In this lesson, we're going to learn the commands to send and receive a simple notification. So I'm back here in Unity, and I've just added a very simple script to this oil can, or this oil drum that is very close to our camera. And the functionality we want to add to our game is whenever we click this, we want to explode all of our enemies. So right now, the script is incredibly basic. If we hit play and click this, all it does is debug a little bit of information saying we've clicked on it. So now we need to do step one of our three-step process for having a notification send information, having another script receive information, and then having that receiving script actually run some code. So to begin with, we need to post a notification. So to do this is a little bit of a verbose piece of code, but it's actually pretty simple to understand, but I don't like typing it in. So let's jump over to another script, and let's go down to somewhere where we post a notification. And let's just copy that line. Of course, you can type this out, but as you can see here, this is quite a few characters, and it takes a little while to type out. Now let's just quickly talk about what this is doing, because it's relatively simple, but it looks complex. And these first two arguments are just getting the default center game object. If you recall from earlier, whenever we have our game set up, you'll notice we have no notification center. When we hit play, a notification center object, or this default notification center, is created. Now these first two parts of this command simply return that object. And then on that new object, or on the object in our hierarchy, we call this post notification function. Now this has two arguments. The first one is what object is sending out this notification. And 99% of the time, it's going to be, or we use the keyword this, which calls or returns the component or the script that is sending the notification. Again, you could use a different game object here, but for the most part, we keep it as this. Now, what we need to change is the actual notification we're sending. Now, if you have a list of notifications that you know you can send, we can type that in here, or we can essentially type in anything. So let's type something simple like explosion and save that out. So now we are telling the notification center that, hey, the object or our script component oil explosion on our oil drum is calling a notification called explosion. So let's see what happens when we run this in Unity. So we've just jumped back to Unity, and let's hit play here. And so we've added this, and if we click on our barrel object, you'll notice we're getting a new something new in our console. Notify list not found in post notification explosion. Now translated, this is telling us that, okay, I received the notification of explosion, but I couldn't find anyone to send it to. So you probably need to fix this, because sending a notification without anyone receiving it is, well, there's no reason to do it. It's essentially useless. So the second part of any notification is adding in an observer for that notification. So let's go back to what we want to do. We want to kill the enemy when we're clicking this. So the enemy script needs to listen in for the explosion from our notification center. So to do this, let's jump back to our code, and let's jump over to the enemy. And here at the beginning in our awake function, you'll find a few of these notification center commands. And you'll notice that the beginning of the command is exactly the same as our post. However, the function we're calling is add observer. And this is telling the notification center which object that needs to be observing or listening for a notification, and then the notification that it wants to listen for. Again, the this keyword is usually what I place in the add observer, and then we just need to change this to whatever notification we're listening for. So I'm just going to copy one of these lines, and instead of listening for this notification, let's listen for explosion. Let's save that out, jump back to Unity here, and let's hit play. And initially, if we click on the oil drum, we're going to get the same error, but that's because it takes a second or two for our enemies to spawn. And once we do that, we can see that our enemies are receiving the notification. We no longer are getting this notify list error. However, nothing's happening. We're clicking this and nothing is changing. That's because there's one last thing we need to do to add functionality, and that is create a new function with the notification name and then add some code that we want to run whenever that notification is called. So back to our enemy here, and I'm just going to copy the notification name just to save a little time and reduce our error rate. And let's type in a new function, explosion, just open close parentheses, open closed curly brackets. And then in here, we need to type the code that we want to execute whenever the notification is called. Now, down here at the bottom of the script, I already know that we have a function called die that happens whenever the enemy dies for non-player reasons. So let's just call this function whenever we receive the explosion. Let's go back up here to our explosion, and let's just call die. Save that out. And now, whenever the notification center receives an explosion notice, it sends it to our enemy script, which then runs the function of that notification. So you'll notice we have quite a few observers here, and you will find a function for each of them. So let's come back to our Unity script, hit play, wait for our enemies to spawn, and once they do, we can click our barrel, and you'll notice they all explode. And that's because our notifications are being sent and received successfully, and we are calling the die function on our objects. Okay, great. So in this lesson, we learned how to set up a simple notification by using the two key pieces of code. One is the post notification, which sends out a new notification, and then in the receiver object, we, at the beginning of that object's lifetime, either in the awake function or the start function, we add it as an observer for that specific notice. Then, to run code, we just need to create a function with that notification name, and then whenever our notification is received, we will run that code. So in the next lesson, we'll take a really quick look at how we can extend this to change other things about our game whenever an explosion is sent.